everyone knows the great Vilna Gaon. The great Vilna Gaon was the father figure of Lithuanian Jewry 250 years ago, right? The Vilna Gaon. And the Vilna Gaon was convinced that this Baal Shem Tov, holy Baal Shem Tov, who came up with this idea called Chassidus, is something that is contrary to Torah. Why that is, how that is, that's not for now, okay? It's a lot of conversation. Because if you think about it, the Vilna Gaon was not, a stupid person, right? He was a very smart person. I'm pushing to say it. So he bought their Narishkeiten that the Chassidim are eating on Tisha B'Av. I mean, come on. He couldn't figure out if Tisha B'Av was on Shabbos that year. So I don't want to talk about that, but we're just making you a little to think. Now, you got to use your cup. What was he thinking? The bottom line is that he came out with the Reish Memches, the excommunication against the Baal Shem Tov, against Chassidim. Who was his Talmud Muvik? Who was the Vilna Gaon's second in command? He was a Yid named Reb Henech of Shklov. Bechlal, in Russia at the time, in Ukraine, each shtetl, each little village and city and town was either dominated mostly by Hasidim or Litvaks. Although sometimes the Rav might have been a Litvische in a Hasidische Stadt, or a Hasidic Rav in a Litvische Stadt, okay? Rabbi Soloveitchik, Rabbi Yasher Ber Soloveitchik of Rabbi Yitzchak would always tell over the story that he was born in Kislev. His father was a Rav in Kislev. He wasn't born there, but actually, he was a Rav in Kislev. He was born there, yeah. Anyway, and he said that most of the Chassidim there were Chabad Chassidim, but the Rav were Litvaks. And his father was one of the Rabbanim, Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik. And he would tell the story that when the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaGeula, the Alter Rebbe of the night that was celebrating his day when he left jail, when he was, released because of, when the Alter Rebbe left, he passed the city of Kislev, and they were running after him, and they protected him. The Alter Rebbe blessed, gave a bracha, that in this city, this little Kislev, with Alamo Zayin Litvische Rabbanim, even though most of the people there were Lubavitch Chassidim. Now, there's a question on that story, because the fact is that the Alter Rebbe did not go that way, so how, again, historically that's true, some say it's not true, I don't want to go into it, but that's the Maisa that goes around. That's what Rabbi Soloveitchik said, okay? It was that, what do we see? We see that the cities, the little cities, were all dominated either by Chassidim Shklov. Shklov was considered more of a center. Shklov was not a little dinky town. You could maybe say Lakewood compared to Tom's River, so it's so full over there.
South of the border.
Yeah, south of the border, right? I'll call upon him. Shklov was a very, very Litvish town. It was dominated by the Litvaks, the Misnagdim. It was... And the second person who was closest to the Goin was a Henech of Shklov. I'm just giving you a background to understand what Shklov was about. Okay, so when we talk about Shklov, you're talking about a real Litvak town, antagonistic to Chassidus. And who was in charge? This Reb Henech. He had a son by the name of Reb Pinchas. But Pinchas became known later, some of you learned in Lubavitch should remember this, his name was Pinchas. In Lubavitch they would call him Pinchas Reitzes. But he wasn't really Reitzes. He was Roizes. His mother-in-law who left him a nice Yerusha was called Rosa. Rosa.
Be careful.
That's her name over here, Rosa.
Rabbi Reitzes?
Oh.
You don't want to spit on anybody.
So I'm saying, the name is not really a Reitzes, the first grade Rebbe. The name, it sounds like, what?
Your first grade Rabbi was my younger.
It is? No, I don't know. I don't know. Yosel Reitzes.
The guy who hit me with the...
Yeah, but again, I'm not convinced that his name, the mother-in-law's name was Rosa. Pinchas rises. And if you say it fast, it becomes Pinchas rises. Whether that's the same family, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so this guy, Pinchas, is a son of Reb Henoch of Shklov. Reb Pinchas met the Balatanya. He meets the Balatanya. You know, when you meet the Balatanya, all questions fall aside. You melt. You see Kedusha in front of your eyes. There's no debating here and questions and pilpulim. This is a yid that's a tzaddik in a body, and he's a heilige person, and you just gravitate to him. Well, Pinchas gravitated and became a chassid. In those days, if you became a chassid, if you were a litvak, and you became a chassid, the parents, the father, not everyone, but many, would literally sit shiva for you. You know, we hear these stories. It's not a story in those days. Later it changed. And Reb Henoch Shklover sat shiva for his son Pinchas that joined what was called the Kat. Kat means in English the cult. This is a cult. They changed the Nusach from the Ashkenaz with the German and all kinds of things. Arois von Stub. Sounds familiar? Today when I spoke in the shul, and I said that the place cracked up. You know, Arois von Stub. You don't do it my way, get out. It's either my way or the highway. Out of here. OTD, right? Anyway, all that stuff. So, Arois, you left, you became a chassid, you don't belong here. He said shiva for him. Out, he doesn't care. Those days, you know, if you think today, some, you know, don't care. I'm telling you, it was much worse then, they didn't care. Today we have, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, there's a little seichel coming back to people, and they understand that you don't get anywhere with force.
What?
You negotiate. And you use love, and you use ava, and you show the beauty of what you're doing, and you understand what you're doing. And then people want to be more involved in what's going on. But that's another discussion, not for now. Anyway, 2 years go by. 2 years. A father ostracizes his son, sits shiva for him, says, bye-bye, Charlie, Arois. Doesn't see him. And the son, he's a Talmud Chacham. Big Talmud Chacham. And he's not changing. He became a chassid. In this case, a chassid of the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe. He's not changing either. Sounds familiar? We have a schism between a father and a son. He holds is gerecht. He's right, and he holds he's gerecht. And each are chazak. Each are, you know, stubborn and personalities, and you know, they're Talmid Chachamim. This is not stam. 2 years go by, and Pinchas is walking in a park. He's a park, a street to get some fresh air. He notices on a chair. You know who he notices? An old man. Who was this old man? It was his father. Oh wow! His father. I haven't seen him in 2 years. He goes over to his father. Tata, father, you remember me? Because you looked a little different than a Litvak, right? He looks up, he says, yeah. Oh, Pinchas, that's you? You're frum? You're religious? You have a beard? You have a yarmulke? You look like a frum person. I thought you became part of a cult that doesn't believe and rebels and rejects and you know, you're all fry and not religious and you don't care and all that. Are you, aren't you? What? I'm mixed up. He says, Father, what you see is what you get. This is who I am. He says, how did this happen to you? Yeah, he's a Scheidler. How did it happen to you that you became a Lubavitcher? You know why? Because he went to the Balatanya. He went to the Alter Rebbe. And he says to his father, this is what I became. He says, let me go home with you. He goes home. And he goes to wash. He offers his father a piece of bread. They go to wash. And he sees the way he washes. You know how a Yid, a Chassid washes? Did you ever see a Lubavitcher wash? It's not 2 times, it's 3 times. 3 on each. And we use a towel or a napkin to hold. And first you fill it up with your right hand. You transfer it to your left hand. These details are exact. These are not stam, chaplap. Okay? It takes him 5 times and he checks his nails. Are they clean? Because you're supposed to wash only on clean. If it's not clean, you have to clean your hands first. And he's meticulous. And when he makes the bracha, al natilas yadayim means he uplifts his hand over, brought down in the Shulchan Aruch, over his forehead. I'm telling you, it's details. You could become OCD from the details. But if it's natural, it's natural. And he can't believe it. He outdoes him in washing. Just in washing. His son is so much more frum. And here he is, the Vilna Gaon, second in command. And my son, who became part of this cult, is washing mamish like a tzaddik. Sit down, come. I'll call upon him. One thing after the other. He sees that this son of his, Pinchas, is not just not frum, that he is frum, but he's more frum than he is. He's more religious. He says, what's going on here? He says, Father, I learned it all from the Balatanya. I learned it all from the Alter Rebbe. So he says, I have to meet your Rebbe. You know what that means? That means like for the contemporary Chevy, Rabbi Aaron Kotler or Rabbi Shach would say they want to meet the Lubavitcher Rebbe. They want to meet the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Okay, everyone's in Olam Emes and, you know. But the idea of someone who opposed Hasidus and then wants to meet a Rebbe, a Chassidish Rebbe, and not just meet for chont, you know, but to meet for Emes, to understand. So Pinchas tells him, listen, Tata, once a year the Alter Rebbe comes to visit his Chassidim in Kislev. Because in those days it was difficult to travel, everyone, right? So the Rebbes, many Rebbes would go to their Chassidim. And they would go to places, even though it wasn't the bastion of Hasidim, it was a bastion of Litvische, but there was a little shtibel there, just like in Tom's River the other day, there was this little shtibel of Chassidische Chevra, okay? So he went. So he says, come for that Shabbos, and you'll meet the Alter Rebbe. You can ask him any question you want, then you could challenge him, and you could... The Shabbos came, the Alter Rebbe came to Shklov, Reb Henoch Shklove comes to his son Pinchas, and he comes to Shul. What does a Lubavitcher Shabbos look like? I'm going to describe to you now what a real Lubavitcher Shabbos looks like, used to look like. Friday night, before Kabbalah Shabbos, the Rebbe says a Maimach Chassidus. An hour, half hour, an hour and a half. It's quiet. You can't hear a pin drop. The Rebbe is talking about Atzilus and Sviris and this and that. B'malak kol almim, Seivav kol almim, Rotzev Yishuv, all the Barunim, the Balatanya, that some of you have learned and more will learn in Mitzvah Hashem. And then there's the Nigunim. And the Nigunim are meditative Nigunim to the you know, for the soul. We sing with hearts. You sing with heart. And 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 people, whatever, were in shul, we sing zusammen. And then they daven Kabbalah Shabbos. And it's not stam, just davening and zingt from the hearts. And they say the words. And Alter Rebbe writes, Yosef was talking to me about it, why, he says, he doesn't understand. He says, if you ask most Lubavitchers, they don't know what the Alter Rebbe says on the last page of Tanya, which we say on the 18th of Kislev, which is Friday. Today was the 19th. I don't know if he's right or he's wrong, but the kid said Alter Rebbe speaks about the importance of davening. And he says 3 things. One, he says davening b'koil. Do you know that he says that? That doesn't mean like the stolen or scream. But he does say you should raise your voice to stand around the chazan. which no one really does, but he means daven together. And 3, if a Baal Tefillah is in a rush because he has to go to work, he's not allowed to go to the Yomid. And the Alter Rebbe says some very, very harsh things about a Baal Tefillah who has to rush out. He makes the whole congregation rush. It's all there. Look it up. And it's very easy to understand. So the Friday night davening in the Stiebel, the Lubavitcher Stiebel, in the Chabad Stiebel over there, was a real emes dicke davening. Okay, Friday night. Then they go to the Suda. Shabbos morning. Hey, it's gewoon weiter. We're saying Yiddish. It starts again. You go to the mikveh. Who knows what kind of mikveh? If they went to the river and they jumped into the ice, mikveh. If it was in the winter. And then after the mikveh, you go learn Chassidus. How long do you learn Chassidus? A few hours. A few hours learning about Atzilus and Bria and Spheris and what's going on here. And we learn Chassidus and there's Chavrusas and everyone's together. And then they start davening, and then there's a Kiddush, a Farbrengen, and no one rushes home to the Chont and to the Kishke, and believe me, they didn't have Chont, the Kishke had the Farbrengen. If they had a little piece of herring, they were lucky. But everyone's there because they want to be there. They want to be at the Farbrengen. Like you all came tonight, because you want to be at Yutas Kislev. This is the Gewaldigkeit. But Meher to Yutas Kislev, the light of Yutas Kislev shines, you come. Regardless of how long you stay, you don't stay, you're here. So they come to the Farbrengen. And so the Shabbos. And then Shalosh Shudas with the Negunim, B'nai Echola, and the Maimer, and maybe Nocha Maimer. Matzah Shabbos, his son tells him, he says, I have to talk to you, Rebbe, because really he didn't have a chance to talk to him during Shabbos. You know, everyone's busy, davening, but Lent, you know what I'm saying? It's not really time to talk. To the Rebbe, to the Alter Rebbe. So he says, Matzah Shabbos, the Alter Rebbe gives you chidus. Like now, people go in privately and talk to him. Go talk to him if you want to talk to him. He says, sure. Avram, you ever heard the story? This is a new story for you. The story of my brother, who's well-read and well-learned, didn't know the story. So a lot of people don't know the story. I heard it from Rabbi Yosef Segel Yerushalayim, or heard it from his Mashpia, Rabbi Reichman in the Teresemis Yerushalayim, who must have heard it from Rabbi Havlin. Who said he's a relative to Havlin? Rabbi Havlin. So this is Mipiyish, Ish Mipiyish. And most Lubavitchers don't know the story. I never knew it till I heard it from him. It's a Gewaldige Gemaisa. We haven't finished yet. He goes into the Alter Rebbe, and he says the following words. Rebbe, Kableini tachas kinofecha. Accept me under your wings. I want to be your chassid. The second in command. To the Vilna Goy, says to the Alter Rebbe, I want to be your chassid. It's unheard of. But he was so taken by the Kedusha and by the Varmkeit and by the energy and by the Shabbos that the Lubavitcher Chassidim together with the Alter Rebbe created that Shabbos that he just was drawn to it. And he says, I want to be a chassid of yours. Now comes the answer of the Alter Rebbe, and you have to take, I'll give you a disclaimer before the answer. That after you hear the Alter Rebbe's answer, I want you to think about his answer. And I'll give you a little food for thought, but the rest you're going to have to think about. And if you want to follow up with me, you can email me, fax me, whatever. You can contact me through all the gadgets. By the Polish Chassidim and the Welt, not Lubavitch, the Shabbos after Shavuos, usually it's Pashas Nosai, they say a pisman, they say a tefillah that follows the Aleph base. And there's a stanza, there's a phrase for each letter. And this is part of the stanza for the tests. Listen. Tit mimenu yoytze chasidim. There's a few other words. Olam haba. Literally, this is lauding the Torah. I don't know. Do you say it in Ashkenaz? This you don't remember. Anyway, I saw it in the Tefillas Beis Yaakov, Rabbi Yaakov Emden. I found the Tefillah. Tit means a cement, a glue, literally. There's a type of a glue and cement. Mimenu yotzech sidim. From there come out the pious ones. Olam haba, meaning when you learn Torah and you glue yourself with Torah, you bind yourself with Torah, you'll have Olam haba. That's the literal meaning. Said the Heilige Tzaddik, the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, Schusi Yogna Leinu. The Alter Rebbe said, Tit, in Yiddish, there's a word called akichel. You've heard of the word kichel? Yes, right? You guys eat sometimes kichel. What's the Yiddish word for kichel? Yossi, what's the Yiddish word for kichel? Yeah, you Yossi. What's the Yiddish word for kichel? You know. No. What is kichel made of?
Go. Flour.
Flour and eggs.
How do you say flour in Yiddish?
Mayo, yeah.
Mayo. Another word for besides that. Teig. Teig. Dough. And in Yiddish we say ateigale. The Alter Rebbe said, Tit, there is a shtickle teig. There's a shtickle dough. There's a little piece of dough. Shemimenu yotzach chasidim. Chasidim come from this dough. They're carved out of this dough. And he says, Reb Henech Shklover, you're not made of this dough. What is this? Now, that's the end of the story the way I heard it. Now I'm going to explain. What dough are we talking about here? We're talking about the Chassidish shtickle kichul with the herring and the little mashke, the little chayim that we say in a shtibel in the morning after Shachris when someone has a yard site. You have to be carved out from that. You have to appreciate it. If you appreciate the shtickle kichul with the herringle and the little bromfen, not so much food, a little, you can be a chassid. If you can't appreciate that, you can't be a chassid. So Reb Henech wasn't made from this material. So for him, I'm elaborating and paraphrasing. Reb Henech had to make what we call in English, in psychology, a paradigm shift. Right? You know what a paradigm shift means? He had to change his whole mahalach hamachshava in the terminology of yeshiva. To change the whole mahalach hamachshava at the age of 75, etc., is very hard. You could do it. But when you're a young boy like Avram, what is your name? Moshe. When you're young and you're fresh and you're in yeshiva and your mind is open, the best time I remember in yeshiva was I was in Morristown. We were able to think. I was 18, 19, 20, and I asked hard questions. Don't think that, became a Lubavitcher I'm born a Lubavitcher, but we asked questions. Who is God? Why is God? Who are Jews? Who are non-Jews? What's going on over here? Medafregen. You're allowed to ask. And sometimes you get answers you like, sometimes you don't get answers, sometimes you don't get answers. But at least you're involved in the Masechta, in the Parsha, in the whole experience of understanding. So let's go back to what the Alter Rebbe said. Tit mimenu yotzech sidim. You want to be a chassid yosel? You bring l'chaim to the table. You make a chassid shemalava malka, which you did for Yutas Kislev. That's what a chassid is. Now, I'm not going to go into, the style of Chabad, the style of Chagas, different Polish Chassidim, and how does Ger do it, and how does Belz do it, and how does Satmar do it, and how does Vizhnitz do it, and how does Bavav do it, and how does Lubavitch do it. Those are all what we call in English semantics. Those are details, Nekudas, and they're important Nekudas. I've written extensively. My next book is about Chabad, Boyan, the Boyaner Ruzhner Chassidim, Kloisenburg, Skver, and Stolin. And the next volume, which will come out next year, is on Belz, Baviv, I've said Baviv, and Belz, Baviv, who else? Ger, and Vizhnitz. So we are studying the relationship between Chabad and other Hasidism. It's not a full-blown study because I'd have to write a 1,000-page book, but at least a bissel to look at some issues. But that's not what I want to discuss now. The idea of all Chassidim. All Chassidim. Our host, Suri's son-in-law and daughter, My wife told me, just interesting. Don't worry, I'm not going to embarrass anyone. Just an akudah. I travel and I study communities and people. That's what I do. It's part of my work. I observe. Sitting here with you, I'm observing you, not just talking to you, just sharing with you. I'm studying you. And you're leaving an impression in my brain that one day will be thought about. So I studied what I heard today. And what did I hear? Look at what I heard. That the area they moved in Tom's River, they didn't realize, they thought there was more Chassidim than non-Chassidim there.
Which area is where we live?
I don't know which area, wherever they live.
Once
Yeah, yeah, whatever.
We're Talmud?
And he had a minion from Maidiv, and they all came.
Is that by Talmud?
But he said, for example, Maidiv, right? Hello, Maidiv tonight. 4:16, at 5:16, on the dot, there were 10 to 15 guys in the house. On the dot, Chatztayim Shalosh gedavened, and then out. And they davened nicely. They didn't daven, they davened properly. So he said, their son-in-law said, he grew up in Borough Park in Bobov, he said, yes, you speak a little bit before davening, you speak a little bit after davening, hopefully you don't speak during davening, and it's a kibbutz, Hasidim have this innate kind of kibbutzing, social, comfortable, social aspect of, talking with each other, patting each other. It's very hard to describe because you have to live it. And really, if someone who's not a chassid and wants to become a chassid, you need to live chassidus. What do I mean to live? You need to, just like say, a ger, a convert. Truly, in my wife's community in Melbourne, Australia, a famous convert, I'm not going to say who, very famous, and he's today a Talmud Chacham, and he's already an 85-year-old man. Years he studied and lived in the community before they accepted him for conversion. And you see the difference. Some of you might know who he is, but I don't want to say. You see the difference. He became a leader. He became a rabbi. He became a teacher of many Bali Tshuva. In fact, Rabbi Sachs, Jonathan Sachs, studied by him, with him. Did you know that? You don't know that. Now you'll go look it up on the internet. You'll find out who it is. Okay? Okay, Rabbi Gaffney. Rabbi Gaffney is his name. My wife gave me permission, so I said it. Because her grandfather made him become a Jew. Her grandfather was the one that he became, and he, because the Besdin didn't want to convert him.
Why?
They were very tough.
No, but by Spartan they don't accept.
Yeah, so this was not Sfardim, but they were. Not because of Sfardim. They were just very tough. I'm talking about not in the 50s. I'm talking about the end of the 50s. You're going way back. Because they didn't know who his mother was. It's an Asufi in Halacha, Kedushin, Ksubas, the Gemara. This was a very difficult situation. Tias, wer gewinnt the mama? Man weiß nicht, wer the mama is. You know what the mama is? It's already half of an issue. Man weiß nicht, wer the mama is. The Gemara speaks about an Asufi. It's called an Asufi. Anyway, why am I saying this? Because you're here in Tom's River. We could talk about the Alter Rebbe all night with Gewaltige Meises, and I'm sure you'd like it. But we have to, right? Yossel, something bottom line. No. Say l'chaim.
Where's my l'chaim?
What's with you?
My star mashkin still
Anyway,
over here.
give him l'chaim. Most of you live here. You have to get together. Or you even come from Lakewood. Get together more. Create a Chassidish environment. You have chevra that will come. New York from here it's an hour. You take they're shluchim, they're people. Believe me, a shliach would love to come if I bring for you guys here. I'm sure. Just gonna invite him. I have a friend, Rabbi Chazanov in Manalapan. He's a classmate of mine, Baruch Chazanov. He's a big Talmud Chochem. He's a Chassidish guy. He went through the 770. He's Molly V'Godesh. You just got to get him to come out. He'll come out, you'll hear. You give him a little mashke, you sing a few nigunim, and you'll see. You know what I'm saying? We did this in Borough Park with Heichel Menachem when they started the library. Well, the first library, Heichel Menachem, was by us in Borough Park, even before Yerushalayim. I don't know if you know that. What do? They used to invite guest speakers, Motzei Shabbos. And usually it was Lubavitcher Rabbonim or Shluchim, and it was L'chaim Uvracha. And it was people loved to hear stories and sing a niggin, the Varmkeit. So I think a good resolution that we walk away with something concrete to begin the Yutas Kislev, Chav Kislev, is that you have to invest to do this. Meaning, it's not going to come by osmosis. It's not going to come just by giving a shmek once a year. You come in Yutas Kislev, you Tzvat, you Dalfin Nissen. You got to invest in something. And when you'll invest, you'll reap the benefits. And you'll have the great schus. I'm speaking to you, Rabbi Yosef, and everyone else. You'll have the great schus. Years later, when you have a Lubavitcher Shtibel or Lubavitcher Shul, and I tell him again, that I'm telling you, this area is so ripe to put up a nice Lubavitcher Shul, you see. You give a good kiddush with a little scotch. You have a nice hot tub for a mikveh. And you start, face 9:30 to 10, you know? The later, you see, Bashi, what did I tell you? The later the better. You pack the house. You pack the house. And people will give tzedakah, and people will make kiddushim, and it'll become a... But you gotta get together, you know. If I was younger in my younger career, this would be for me small potatoes. This is what I did. I put up buildings and shuls and mikvahs and yeshivas in California when I was a shlichus there. You take a younger man, and if you're a younger man. If you have the time and energy, then you guys have to help. Enough help and zusammen. Now I have a problem with walking because everyone lives 10 miles
apart.
So that's a problem. So first of all, if there's 2 or 3 people that live within walking, yes, you have to stretch a half an hour. Why are you giving me Shana Teva? Shana Teva. Thank you. V is the Schwarze Kasche. Now from Schwarze Kasche. Anyway. L'chaim chevre, l'chaim. So the Reb Henoch Shklover, basically, the reason the Alter Rebbe didn't take him is because he felt, there's different explanations that I heard, by the way. One explanation is he wanted him to be like a clandestine, a stiller, missionary. He should remain by the Litvaks. And meanwhile, he will spread Chassidus there. Okay, this is all, Adar Azoi. The bottom line is, he definitely told him, I cannot accept you the way you are to be a chassid, even though you love everything. And this answer of the Alter Rebbe is very interesting if you think about it. We were living at a time when Baruch Hashem we're able to have a Farbrengen. Baruch Hashem, we have food, place, and it's all gewaldig. The idea of a bissel mesiras nefesh, giving sich a kvetch, making yourself a little uncomfortable, this sometimes gets in the way. Making yourself a little uncomfortable. And this was by Chassidim, by Chabad Chassidim, this was number one. Like I told you, Rabbi Chaim said, was ist Chassidus? Nicht ich. And if I may say so, humbly speaking, not that I'm humble, the idea of humility. In this issue, the real Lubavitcher Chassidim that I knew from Amol, they emulated this. They mamish. My wife reminded me, because we're talking about not having a mikveh, she says we had a guest once in Marin County, California. So before I built a mikveh in 1990 or so, didn't have a mikveh there. But Baruch Hashem, my aunt who was a survivor and didn't have children, left some money, and my father gave it to her, and then Beryl Weiss, and then some Rabbi Reichi, we put together the funds and we built a mikveh. Before we didn't have a mikveh. It was a Yid Rabbi Elishevitz. You know Rabbi Elishevitz?
course.
I'm going to tell you about Rabbi Elishevitz. I don't want. Thank you. I'll tell you about this Rabbi Elishevitz. You know him because you lived there, but
Rabbi Elishevitz's wife is what made me Chabad.
yeah. Okay, and I'm telling you now about him. I'm telling you about him. This Yosef Elishevitz was a Russian boy. His father, by the way, if you want to read up about his father, there's a sefer called Hagacheles, a yid by the name of Emmanuel Michlin, who lived in Moscow from 1922 to 1972. He came to Eretz Yisrael in 75. He wrote up his memories. It is one-of-a-kind book, a diary that anyone that wants to know what happened for 50 years in Moscow, from 22 to 72, you must read this. I got it from a library. I copied it. It is a gold mine. Zu gesund. So he writes there about Rabbi Yankel Elishevitz. That's Yossi Elishevitz's father. Fascinating. He was a shayach. He wasn't a Lubavitcher. Yeah, I think it was maybe a Breslover. But, Breslover and Lubavitch in those days were like one. It was not... One person meditates still, his boinanus, and one person is his boinadus, isolation and meditation. Different styles, very different styles. But nevertheless, this Rabbi Yosef Elishevitz came to us, and he was doing for his father-in-law, Rabbi Blau, Olav Shalom. Rabbi Blau went around gathering manuscripts on the Bali Tosfos, and he went to the Vatican. He got, you heard of Rabbi Blau. You look him up, you'll see. He found manuscripts and he published them. He was a Talmud of a Rechona Vasselman, a Branovich, a Litvisher. And then he became a Lubavitcher. His brother-in-law was Rabbi Chadikov, the Rebbe's secretary. It's a whole other story. Anyway, so this Yosef Elishevitz is his son-in-law. He comes to us and he's checking mezuzahs. He was a sefer too. So he says to me, "Where's the mikveh?" In the morning, "Where's the mikveh?" I say, "Rabbi Yosef, ich habe nicht mikveh. I don't have yet a mikveh. I also go to the mikveh since I'm 13, 14 years old. I go to the mikveh every day, but I don't have a mikveh. And to drive to San Francisco every day, I have work. I can't. I go into a shower and I have a mind, the Tisha Kabim, it's my mikveh, He says, okay. And he disappears. This was the winter. I remember like yesterday. California winter, but it's still a winter. And Marin County is near San Francisco, so it's colder.
California.
Northern California, so it's colder, okay? He disappears. Later I find out, I don't even know if he told me because he was so humble, so modest, he didn't speak. This like
He went to the ocean.
He's not to the ocean. We had a creek on the way into our 538 plant community. There was a creek. I found out that he went into the creek, and that was his mikveh. Did he break ice? Did he break ice? I don't know, but
No,
there was no. It wasn't. But just the idea, like he couldn't daven without going to the mikveh. So here I am, and I didn't go to the mikveh today. I wanted to go, but it was hard for me to walk. What? But I compare myself to Yosef Elishevitz. I'm a nothing, a garnished. Because for him, he can't daven without a mikveh. If he had to go 7 miles, I'm convinced he would walk 7 miles to the mikveh. You understand? This is real Chabad. Real Chabad is Mesiras Nefesh. Giving away yourself completely. And the Shluchim, I want to say, they do that. You know why? Sometimes you think, well, this Shliach, he's living off the fat of the land. He has a big building. He has a lot of people around him. He's getting... You don't know what's going on inside. You don't know the issues he has with his kids. You don't know the chinuch. You don't know... There's so many other issues that are besides buildings and the outside veneer. It's all a big veneer. What's going on inside? When I was a bacher in Los Angeles in the yeshiva, in Los Angeles, in the Chabad yeshiva, listen to this story. It should make you cry. I would go in Mitzrayim every Friday. I would visit people, put on tefillin with them. Wilshire Boulevard, if you know Los Angeles. Crescent Heights and Wilshire Boulevard, big buildings, Israeli consulates on top. Go to a building across the street. And I asked someone if he wants to put on tefillin. No, and whenever he was there, he put on tefillin with me. This time he says, do me a favor, close the door. What do you want me to close the door for? Because he wasn't embarrassed, even though he had goyish. Secretaries know that, Close the door. Please close. I close the door. He says, let me tell you something before I put on film. Asia, listen to this story. He says, I'll tell you why I'm telling you, ask me to close the door. Because I'm crushed. I'm broken. So I say, so-and-so, why are you broken? He was wearing rings, diamonds. He says, I have everything I need, everything I want. I own a yacht. I own a house in Hawaii. I am the Baal Tokeya in a gigantic shofar in my conservative synagogue. I have diamonds. I have wealth. And I'm a criminal lawyer, and I've won every single case, 19 out of 19. Fame, success, money, outs. And he says, inside, I'm crushed. I'm not a man. I'm going to use an English word, manhood. I've lost my manhood. Why have I lost my manhood? Because my daughter steals from me my silverware to pawn it off for drugs. I'm crushed. And he started to cry. And this to me was like a shock. I was 19, 20, 21, still a much younger man, forming ideas, listening and hearing. And here's a man who looks so rosy on the outside and so gewaldig, and he's inside melted. Zerbrochen, as we say in Yiddish. So what you see on the outside is not what you get on the inside, okay? That's number one. Number two, the shliach, at the end of the day, he moves away from a community. He moves away from a family, and he goes wherever the Rebbe sends him. That's a real shliach. If the Rebbe sends him to Timbuktu, that's where he goes. If he sends him to Brooklyn Heights, he's in Brooklyn Heights. No, it doesn't make a difference. The Mishaleach, the sender, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, sends him. And he goes. He doesn't ask questions. Because you should know, there were people who asked questions, Yosef. And Rabbi Chadikov, the Rebbe didn't say this, but through Rabbi Chadikov, he said, no, thank you. We have our answer. They were very, very, why? They weren't nice. They were mean? No. Shlichus is Mesiras Nefesh. You either are in Mesiras Nefesh, or you're not in Mesiras Nefesh. You're a good Yid, you're a Gavaldike Yid, it's alles git, it's all good. But Lubavitch, Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, and by the way, there's a fascinating story. I can tell you stories upon stories with the Alter Rebbe that was Nizgala. The Friedrich Rebbe writes in the Sikha 1948, in the Sikha Tavshin Ches, Beis Nissen, he writes over there that the Alter Rebbe had a Yizgalus of the Baal Shem Tov HaKodesh and Baal Shem Tov Dain Shlichus is Mesiras Nefesh. Out of all the Talmidei HaMagid, whose yahrzeit was today, by the way, the Heilige Magid, who was given the task of Mesiras Nefesh? Reb Shneir Zalman. For whatever reason, that's what the Eibishter wanted. So that passed on for 7 generations. You speak about couples. You speak about the whole Lubavitcher ethos. Ethos means the philosophy. The whole Lubavitcher gestalt is Mesiras Nefesh. If you take Mesiras Nefesh away from a Lubavitcher, he's not a Lubavitcher. He might look like a Lubavitcher and act like a Lubavitcher, but he's not inside a Lubavitcher. And that's fine. There's hundreds of thousands such Yidden. The world needs all Yidden. But what is a Lubavitcher Mesiras Nefesh? That's it. My wife's father, my father-in-law, was a Baal Mesiras Nefesh. Here's a story. What is Baal Mesiras Nefesh? He comes to us for Sukkot. We're living in Marin County.
Wait, you didn't finish the lawyer. What did you tell the lawyer?
What should I tell him? I started to cry with him. What, is there something I could tell him?
I didn't know.
You got to listen.
You built it up. I didn't hear
You
the
built
end.
it up. Now figure it out. Listen to his pain. When someone's in pain, don't open your mouth. Feel the pain. There's nothing to say. Anyway, what was I going to say now? What story? So, but he comes to California to visit us in Marin County. One Sukkot. Erev Sukkot. We're in shul in the morning. Finish Shacharis. Yeah, and we're chatting. Goodbye. I will see you tonight for davening. Very nice. So I say to my shver, I said, my father will come, I'll give you a ride home. Wasn't very far, but I had a car. So he says, no. Go yourself. I said, okay. I thought he wants to get the fresh air, walk, like 5-10 minutes, whatever. So he comes home 3 hours later, and I know that he finished davening. He wasn't davening. So I say, Shver, where were you? Where did you get lost? Listen. He says, I overheard you speaking to someone in shul, one of your balabatim, your congregants, and he mentioned that he didn't yet put up his sukkah. It's Erev Sukkos. So after davening, I just went over to him. I said, let me go over with you. He says, where do you want to come? I said, I want to help you put up a sukkah. He spent 3 hours putting up a sukkah. Didn't ask, didn't make any waves. And I didn't hear this from him. Actually, I did hear it from him later, but I'm saying, at the time, I didn't hear it from him. He didn't say, I'm going to put up some sukkah. It was natural for him. If a Yid doesn't have a sukkah, on Erev Sukkos, I put everything aside before I eat, before I shmooze, before I check my email, and I put up a sukkah for him, because tonight is Sukkos. That was what we call in Hebrew, Yiddish, the Hanocha. The Hanocha was the ethos, the philosophy of these Yidden. We today can do this, and need, especially the young people. The young people, because we're already, as we say, AK, and we'll leave it at that. Right? We're over the hill. But the young children, the teenagers, the children, the future, Rabbi Yosef, your children, your girls, your boy, these are the future. They need to be raised in a culture of Mesiras Nefesh. And if they see Mesiras Nefesh by their parents, they're going to have Mesiras Nefesh. If they don't see it, they'll be fine Yidden, but not Bala Mesiras Nefesh. So now, in Chabad, people ask sometimes, why is Chabad so successful with all kinds of people? You know why? Because Chabad allows people to think. And we want, the whole system of Lubavitch is Chochma Bina Das. Figure it out yourself. Figure it out yourself. I'll give you a taste. But you need to use your Chochma Bina Das, and that is never going to go away. And if you come to the conclusion that you are right now this type of Lubavitcher, so be it. As long as you made that decision and choice, kol hakavod. You'll learn more, you'll be around more, you'll want to understand more. You'll chapsich. Whoa, wait a minute. What I thought was right is not exactly it. And this, together with the Varmkeit, is very healthy for young people. We need to give the young people expression. We need to give them opportunity to think and grow. At the same time, we need to offer and make available and live ourselves like a chassid. And one last word before the L'chaim. I have seen, and I'm sure you've seen, sometimes as parents, we have our dreams, we have our wishes, and we go on a certain course. I want to tell you, I think, and who am I, but there are no guarantees in life. There are none. Anyone says otherwise is a big fool. But the more simple you live, I promise you, you'll have better results all around. I'm telling you. The ostentatious approach, in Yiddish we use the word, the beweisen sich. It don't work. It's going to work maybe for 3 of your kids, not for the 5th, not for the 4th, not for the 6th. Man darf sich nicht beweisen. The best thing is to be still, to be humble, and to live, more of a simple lifestyle. Simple does not mean not, look, Baruch Hashem, you have a beautiful house to make a beautiful Malava Malka. It's not, it's how you use your Gashmias. It's how, that's the Nekuda. And when sometimes parents, they start dressing their kids fancy, and they grow their hair, and so wird a ganze Chont and Kugel and Kishke of Gashmis and materialism. it's fraught for issues. I'm telling you, live a simple lifestyle. You want to say something?
No.
Yeah, please.
No, I didn't want to say that.
Okay, no.
I just wanted to see.
Yeah. Living. The Gemara, Rosh Hashanah, Mishnah Rosh Hashanah. When it comes to a shofar, you have different types of shofar, right? The Gemara says a shofar that's poshut, that's not so roundy. Says the Gemara, the Mishnah like this: Kol the poshut. What's the lashon? Kol the poshut mailit fei. I think that's the lashon. The more simple the shofar is, straight, the better it is. The more twisted the shofar is, it's not as good as a shofar as the other shofars. Twisted, what does twisted mean? The more sophisticated we are, the more spitzelach. The Gemara cup. We're all Gemara, right? We're all Yidalach, right? We have Gemara kept. The Reb Chaim, and the Pshat, the Tosfos, and the Marshal, you do the same thing in business. What? Let Hashem control the world and just calm down. Calm down. The Eibishter gives parnosa, not a penny more, not a penny less to what you're going to get. I'm telling you. I'm sure you've seen this. I've seen this in my life. You lose money here, you get it here. You make it here, you lose it here. So at the end of the day, another thing that I've seen in Lubavitch all my years, the kochenzich, kochen means the excitement, the obsessment, in Gashmias. This wasn't Lubavitch. They worked hard, but everyone knew that amongst all the chassidim, who were the biggest schnodders? No, not schnodders, the biggest, the biggest loy mutzlichniks, Lubavitchers. Why? They're learning chassidus. They're going to the mikveh. They're davening for a few hours. They're learning chassidus. By the time 10, 11, 12 comes around, they're ready to go to work. No one's going to accept you for a job. Take, let's say, the Satmar chassidim. Rabbi Yoelish, the big tzaddik, taught them, go work, make a lot of money, give a lot of tzedakah, chesed. And that's all the gazach. But you have to do that. And medaf ligin in them. Lubavitch never had that. Never had that. In my humble opinion, unfortunately, it's changed a little bit today because a lot of younger light are, they're fully. Used to be in 770 in my days, in the 70s. Used to see chassidim davening, talking chassidus, talking vertel. 10 o'clock Wednesday morning. When are you daven? Now, of course, a person like my father-in-law, they were business people and they worked hard, and my father was up at 6 o'clock already, to get ready to go at 7. But so here we are. There's so much to say, and there isn't enough time. And the ikir is, we have to say it ourselves. You have to live in ruchnius. Enough already with gashmius. The gashmius will come. I'm telling you, the Eibishter sees that a yid is wholeheartedly eved Hashem. He opens up and a gitte barchava. I'm telling you, l'chaim, the Eibishter help that everyone here should have roiv gashmius, but use it for ruchnius. L'chaim. Sing along with me. Hey, Shalom Aleichem.
Huh?
What's your name?
Yankee Ranis.
Nice to meet you. You're Mayor's son?
No, cousin.
Cousin. I know your father from Flatbush. Another cousin. Bravo. Sing. Moshe. Sing, Moshe. Hey. Don't be ashamed. Hey. Ay, Blinzis, Kevin. Ay, 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 ay. Hey, hey, ay, 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 ay. Okay, now it's your turn a little bit. I spoke too much. No, Yosef, say something.
Now I want to hear some stories from the Alter Rebbe, so we could bring on that with Alter Rebbe.
Aye. Rabbi Yosef, say a word. You say something. Or someone else say something. Give me a breather. Yes, please.
I wanted to ask, since you're an expert on Gilgulim, are we
You want to know who you are.
well, that for sure.
Yeah.
But are we in our last Gilgul, is it safe to say,
Are we in our last Gilgul?
at this point?
You know, there is the vart, there is the saying that this generation is the last before Mashiach, and if we understand that and agree with it, then that would make sense. That the Gilgal on the right, because it says in Yichlu Kol HaNeshamas Begufas, that when Mashiach comes, all the neshamas from the storage house will end. They'll all come out. That's what it's brought down in the Sfara. Did you ever hear that?
I think so.
Right. So, which means also that the Gilgal of neshamas will finish.
Now what about there are wicked people that are still around. If they've done bad, what's going to happen to them now? If they haven't fulfilled, what are they supposed to be doing, and now do they come back again, or?
Well, again, if we're looking from the perspective of Gilgal, it could be that they're here and going through this bad because they need a tikkun in one area. This isn't like straightforward, like, well, if they need a tikkun, they should be good this life. It doesn't work that way. See, the whole sugya, the whole discussion of Gilgal, according to the Arizal, is one that really doesn't make sense. There's no rhyme and reason. I mean, I tried when I started to learn this part of Torah to synchronize it and find rhyme and reason. And my conclusion is there is no rhyme and reason. What do I mean no rhyme and reason? So you're saying it makes sense if Mashiach is coming and all the Shamas are ending. What's with the Rishoyim? So the answer is that it could be that the Rishoyim, the wicked people, have one issue that they have to do on earth, and that issue they do, and that's a tikkun for their neshama, and the other part of the neshama, Gilgal HaNeshamas, has to go through getting the Russia part, which according to Chazal, the Gemara Sanhedrin and all that, they're punished, in Elam Haba. So it's a very complicated type of area of study where we if we seek, rhyme and reason, the way I see it, I don't see rhyme and reason. What we could learn from it, and we need to learn from it, is the Rebbe. I'll just tell you from the Rebbe, because the Rebbe, In 1985, Bashi was 85 when they came to us. They came to California. The people who lost their daughter was 84, 85. A couple who we knew was a good friend of mine, my wife and I, and they came for Pesach to California, and they had 1 or 2 children. 3. And Erev Pesach at the Chabad house, not at our Chabad house, another Chabad house. I don't want to say where. The girl ran across, you know about the story.
11.
Not 11.
11's short.
No, it was Berkeley.
Berkeley. Yeah.
Berkeley. And Nebuch was run over and killed. It was terrible.
My parents were spent 6 months over there, but that was, I think they left a couple weeks before it happened.
She ran the street.
She ran down the street of Chabad
Like
house.
on a main street.
Well, right in front of the Chabad house. It wasn't a gigantic, thoroughfare, but it was a street. Anyway, and there's no Shiva, Erev Pesach. If it's before Chatzos, you sit an hour or 2 and that's it. The mother was devastated. And she's the type of person that is expressive and needs that. And she wrote to the Rebbe. She said, Rebbe, I lost my daughter, but I don't have a chance to mourn for her. What's that all about? She wrote that to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe wrote her like a 7-8 line answer, which was unusual in those years, especially on such an issue. And the Rebbe basically, it's found, you could read it, it should be online too. The Rebbe basically said that your daughter, Miriam, had a certain mission to accomplish. She accomplished it. And she went back because she finished the mission. I mean, only a Rebbe, a tzaddik who sees, So Gilgal Neshama is a very complicated area, but it can give people solace if they need solace. And the only thing that can, for some people, I'm not even talking about that. There's the fact that certain Drasag and other Rishonim don't even agree with Gilgulim. That's another discussion. Is Gilgul emes or not? It's a machlokes in the philosophers. Okay, I'm not going to go pull your wool. Nicht alle sagen es emes, but al pi Zohar Kodesh and Arizal, we accept it as truthful.
But you see, there's people coming up revealing the say tzaddikim or coming back and fish. So that means, what does that mean? What did you say?
Okay.
It's just they come over here to have a
certain ticket, right? Yeah, good. But that's if you believe it. In other words, is as einer will nicht glauben that there's someone in a fish. He's not going to believe. The skvera say of the happened over here with the fish with the skvera market. Go fly a kite to see a psychiatrist. I mean, you have to at the end of the day. That's glauben. What did I do in 2000, 2001? Because
What about Rabbi Neshama Chadasha? Isn't it like...
It's not a Gilgal, it's in the Neshama Chadasha. And also, what?
As opposed to what?
Gilgal means it's a Neshama that's been here before.
So
Neshama Chadasha means it's never been here.
that means we hold
We're all
the
Gilgulim.
Yeah.
A Gilgal means that in addition to your Neshama, you have a Nakuda, a Nitzutz, we call it as a spark, an element in your Neshama that's from a previous life that needs tikkun. That's Pshat Gilgal. I was going to say something.
About 2000, where I didn't do
So here's the story. It comes out of Eretz Yisrael that a woman in the Mona, during the Pesach Seder, the first night, the second night, the sons come running to the local Sfardim and they say, our mother is acting crazy. And please come, tell us what to do. The Sfardim, this is part of the culture. No, I'm not saying it's chas v'shalom to belittle. I'm just saying it's matim. It's matim.
Their
What?
Their area.
Yes, their area. It's a comfort zone. It come over these two koil Jungelite together with the sons, and they hear the mother talking very weird. And all of a sudden, the mother says, You did a sin last night this way. You did a sin. And they run out of the house. They say there's a dibuk over here because we know that a dibuk reveals secrets. They ran out of the house, embarrassed. So, is it or is it not? Chalamoid, they contact Rabbi David Batzri in Yerushalayim. And I met Rabbi David Batzri, a very fine person, very special person. And they said, Rabbi David, we have what looks like a dibuk, and since your grandfather, Rabbi Yehuda Pataya, who wrote the Sefer Minchas Yehuda, was known in Baghdad to take out Gilgulim, we're asking you, this Einakul who does those ceremonies, and that's a tradition that you have, to please take out the dibuk of this lady. I'm telling you, Ma'aser Shehoya, Kach Hoya. Whether you believe it or not, I'm telling you the story.
You said Ani Pincha something?
Yeah.
And I remember the recording, there was a tape of it.
That's right. And I heard that recording.
Yeah.
I didn't just jump at it. I listened to that recording, and I studied that recording. Wait. So, I'm to give you the background. This is before the recording. The recording you're talking about is at the what's it called? No, taking exorcism in Rabbi David Batzri's shul. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about beforehand. The Kitzer, Rabbi David Batzri hears about. He says, "Okay, come down to Yerushalayim." So it's up from the Mona. They come all the way down. And by the way, it's not only recording. They used to have a video of it. I don't know if they, I think I even saw a video. I did see it. Not I think I did see. There's a couch there. It's just so you think of the serious thing. You think of them sitting over there and and there's a couch and they're eating peanuts and they're smoking cigarettes and meret and there's 100 people in the room. It's a real Sfarda Shabbalava Malka. Okay. It was so, you gotta see it. It's like for me as an Ashkenaz, a Chassid and all that. It's just like
Have a video of it?
I saw a video of it. I don't know if they still have it today, but I did see a video of it. And I saw her, and so in this hodgepodge of what I described to you, she's sitting there, tsanua, with like a shawl over her, and her face was covered, I think. So I don't know if I saw her face. I saw her later. At that time, I didn't see, on the video, I didn't see her face. And she's sitting over there, and he starts mumbling and saying and davening and crying, and there's people around, and there's another Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich, who was a big makubal in Yerushalayim, and he's saying tefillis, and all of a sudden, they blow shofar. Guess what, my friends? It's all in the Arizal. Whatever was done there, I learned it in the Arizal. In other words, it's true. They follow the script of what says in the Arizal. I checked. What? They did an excellent job. They did. He did. And all of a sudden, she starts shaking on the couch, shaking, and her sons go over to her to try to control her from shaking, and she's shaking like a mashugana shaking, like someone who's, and all of a sudden she falls onto the floor like a dead person. And Rabbi Batzri says more tefillas, and then he starts saying, in Hebrew, of course, go out. And that says also in the yeah, go out. And all of a sudden, there's a shriek. It's brought on the Arizal. It says, where the dibber goes out of? The little toe. Also steht. So a little toe is tiny. To go out of a toe, you have to squeeze through, right? You have to push stark. You make a noise, it hurts, it's tight. That's the shriek. That's very interesting. Does this intrigue me? And so right away I called him, I go, but Baba Mice is not true, it's baloney, it's Fardisha Mices, that they were making a film and they're making a movie and they want to make money out of it, all. So I said, Chaim Dalfin, this is investigative stuff for you. And that's what I do for a living. I investigate. So I investigated. And I went to Eretz Yisrael. My wife remembers, I went to Eretz Yisrael specifically to meet this person. Where am I going to find her?
LBI, the Lodge Bureau of Investigation.
Where am I going to find her?
Dimona?
Yeah. Wait. This happened at Dimona. So I started to look at Dimona and called the Lubavitcher Shluchim. Somehow I found out she moved to Bet not Bet Shemesh, no, in the I forget.
Sean?
No, when it was very hot in the Torah, but with Avram. Beersheba. Thank you, Beersheba. She moved to Beersheba. I got her number somehow. I called. I was already in the car, in a taxi, on my way there. And I said, I'd like to talk with you. Oh, her daughter answered the phone, like 17, 18. She asked her mother, so what do you want? She says, I heard that there was this whole story, and I'm interested in understanding. I don't know why she agreed, but she didn't. She said, go back, don't bother me. But b'chesed Hashem, b'rachamim, I asked her, please, I'm already in a car coming to you. Please let me come see you. And she agreed. And I saw her. And I spent with her an hour and 45 minutes with her daughter there. And her daughter was also part of when she was going through the exorcism in Yerushalayim. Her daughter was there too. So I started to ask questions to the daughter and questions to her. You understand, from Allah Zayten, from all the sides, to see if yesh mashu, if it's true. Or is this a game?
The bottom line is, do you believe in it? I heard these stories and I was skeptical always.
Okay, I'm telling you, I met the person. So what you and others could say, you could say, I met the person, and I say it is true. Okay. Now, doesn't mean to say that she had the full dibuk. This is already invited. There's a partial dibuk and a not a partial dibuk. And what did she? And by the way, what did she reveal and was saying when she was in her before the exorcism? When the guilt was in her, she was talking about her ex-husband, who was an alcoholic, a shikar, and she spoke about Avedas that she and her husband did. And guess what? It says that also in the Arizal. And if you read it, you'll jump out of your pants. You'll be scared. You won't want to read further. I'll state. And that's what she said that night. She spoke about the Avedas between her and her husband. This is, gefährliche private Sachen and Nishain, v'chulu, etc. So, what's the point? Why am I telling you this tonight? You just Kislev. What's the point?
You're answering this question.
About Gilgulim. I'm just saying, you talk about Gilgulim, it's a whole parsha, and it's not something that I've been called over the years, I got a call one Erev Shabbos on a winter. My wife remembers, it was Friday. It was 4 o'clock. Shabbos is 10 minutes. So a lady calls, hysterical. Rabbi, I heard you're a makubal. I need you to help me. I said, what's the problem? I said, I'm not a makubal. I know a little Kabbalah, but what's the problem? What's the issue? Says, my son is possessed. My son has been grabbed by a dibuk. I said, really, what's the issue with your son? My Tayyar Shefaleh, my dear son, he's 25 to 30 years old. I love him so much. I went through the Holocaust. He can't do this to me. What is he doing to you? And I already figured, okay, the next thing is he's marrying, not a Jew. No. He's marrying a Yid. Wow, Baruch Hashem. Okay, good. What else is he doing? Why do you think he's possessed? This dear son of mine, my only son, is going to have a wedding and there's not going to be kosher food for everyone. It's not going to be a kosher wedding because his wife, his Colin, her parents, who are Jewish but they're not religious, don't care, cost so much more. If my son can do this to me, he must have a dibuk in it. I'll give you. I said to her, my dear, I think we have an issue called a schism between a future shviger and a son-in-law. Already the fights are beginning. You want a kosher wedding, you don't want a kosher wedding. They're arguing that, this is a dibuk. Why am I saying this story to you? There's a lot of mishagas out there. So when you said, you don't know if you believe it, there is skepticism. I'm not, believe me, I understand what you're saying. Ganz good. There is skepticism. But if the Heilige Arizal says that there is such a...
Yes, but when I see sometimes, you see these, they're stuck in Stossel, I don't go...
Right, okay. There's a little seltzer in the back over there. Versteht sich, you know.
I actually feel that it's true. I believe it.
Okay,
It's hard for me to wrap my head around it because I see sometimes people who I believe are Rishonim, and I'm trying to figure out their place right now, if they act very immorally, and what their role is right now.
First of all, my dear Chaver, you have to look at every Yid not as a Rasha. Even someone does something very bad, you have to find the good spark in a Yid. Even a Yid who's gone very far, or a Yid who's a con artist, or a Ponzi scheme artist, or a player, v'chulu. Every Yid has a good neshama. You know, when I was in Los Angeles as a bacher, I went to the prison for Hanukkah to give out licht and mitzayim. Listen to this. I came to a cell in solitary confinement in downtown Los Angeles. I was a bacher. I brought my suganiyot, my donuts, and here I am. And the cell is opened. The guard opens up. I'm allowed to go in for a few minutes. Guess what I see? You'll never guess. Try. I see a picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the cell. I saw it myself. And then he says to me, Titpalel avuri bevakasha. Please pray for me. Following Shabbos, I'm in the Young Israel, Spalding on Melrose in Los Angeles. I'm giving over Torah, Shalosh Shudas. We used to go Shalosh Shudas in the shuls and share words of Torah. I shared this story with the congregation, Rabbi Grumman's congregation. And a Yid gets up and he says, you gave him Shalom? You know who you gave Shalom to? The LA Times wrote up, this was called the Israeli Mafia. And for diamonds, they killed those Yidden they killed for diamonds. That's who you saw. And he told me the name of the person, and I had no idea. I'm a simple bacher going to do mitzvah with someone in a cell. And he says, and you gave him your hand? This was a Shalosh Shudas in front of everybody, like a table like this. And I said, you know, you're right, but you're also wrong. I gave his neshama my hand. I didn't give his killing, murderous hands my hand. As a Yid, Nebuch is very far. And what the punishment will be. Civil law, halachic law. But a Yid has a neshama, so I'm sharing with you. When you talk about Rishoyim, that language, Bechlal, you should know, and I'm not saying this to scold you, but just you should know the habota of the Lubavitcher. It's not in our lexicon. We don't see Rishoyim. We only see tzaddikim. Every Yid is a chelik elakam malmam is a part of Hashem. There are people that do bad and real bad, and they can be punished for their bad. There's halacha, there's civil law, and then there is soul. And then ask yourself another question. That's a hard question to ask. Do we want Hashem to look at us as Rishoyim? Can anyone, I'll talk for myself, but we don't goof up. We don't do things that are wrong. And maybe we're going to get more petch because we know better. We grew up from. We are a certain way and we act sometimes so animalistic and so wrong. So the whole misgeret of, Russia versus Tzaddik in Lubavitch, it don't fly. What? I don't hear what?
Who are we mainly Beinanim or are we Tzaddikim? We're all Tzaddikim.
We are potential Beinanim. According to the Balatanya, I'm glad you mentioned it. We're potential man, potential Beinani. What does that mean? Every Yid can, if they only want to be a Beinani. They asked Reb Nissen Neman of the famous Mashpi in Paris, his Yossi Denberg, the shliach in Carl Springs, is a nephew. So they say he asked once. He said, "They say about you, you're a Beinani from Tanya. You know, a Beinani from Tanya, someone who's perfect in thought, speech, and action. That's like unheard of." So he said to his little nephew, he said, "What's a Beinani? Someone who's careful in thought, speech, and action. If you're careful for 1 minute, you're a 1 minute Beinani. If you're careful for 2 minutes, you're a 2 minute Beinani. If you're careful for 5 years, you're a 5-year Beinani." The perspective and the attitude is the Beinani reality. So sure, there's a person who's a Beinani, Rabbi Moshe Alperovich, another chassid from Lubavitch in Eretz Yisrael. So the children asked the Rebbe, "Can we write on his tombstone that he was Nizar Machshava Dibur Ma'aser?" The Rebbe said yes. Okay, that's once in a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? That's a yid. That's Hatzachazoy Garbit. I mean, I don't know what that means. You know what I'm saying? I know what it means, but how can that be? Like you okay?
When I get asked here in Liquid questions like you were talking about before, the idea of how do vouchers go out in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
Right? Growing shluchos without any support.
Right.
Nothing, right. How do they do it? And also you were mentioning the idea that how are they successful? Right?
Yeah.
So my answer always is this answer, right? If you believe, if you understand the concept that every Jew is a chelik,
yeah,
then that's the answer, right? You're going to go as far as you can, and you're going to go anywhere in order to be able to
find the other chelik.
And it doesn't matter who they are really, because you're
right. You identify with the chelik, yeah.
Right. So you're not making differences between whether they're a Shomer Shabbos Jew or they're in jail Jew or they're this Jew or they're that Jew. You're going for every single Jew.
Right.
And just one Jew you're going for.
Yeah.
And that's the source of the. I think
I
the
understand what you're saying, but
source of the success.
I have to say that there was one incident that I experienced a number of years ago, and I was able to intervene in a Yid's life, I believe, for the better. I recognized that he was with someone who was who I believe was a Russia, and I know you
okay,
that,
continue.
But I was able. I believe that I would hope that I was mashpia, and I think that he changed. Because I identified this other person as a Russia. Now, if I hadn't had that in my lexicon, how would I have approached him?
Why do you have to identify him as a Russia? Why can you identify, I love him so much and I want to help his neshama? Why do you have to identify him as a Russia?
Okay.
Why do you have to put the kvetch, the dogish on Russia?
I didn't use the word that he was, but I said something because I recognized that this person would be, this Heilige Yid would be better off away from this other person.
I understand. So it's a shachir rav every morning we say, right? But I'm saying, but the mindset. See, this is the difference, if I may say so before, Litvisha mindset and Chassidisha. It's not better or worse, but the Chassidisha, especially Lubavitch, not even Chassidisha, Lubavitch, it's not a musig, it's not a comfort zone, you know, the Russia, the bad. You see, and this is what our generation, you know, you and I are a little older, but the young generation, they don't want to hear anymore this, we're bad. They're sick and tired of hearing this. It's not, you know, again, if you trained in that mahalach, and there's a Litvisha mahalach, no question about it, but even there, I think there's been a very big change, and continues to be, because we see what's going on. And when you raise children, and when you start thinking, and this is what I'm Ayutas Kislev suggesting to you as an older person, start thinking like the Alter Rebbe. You learn Tanya a little bit?
A little bit.
Yeah. So learn, you know, make a shiur, or go online. There's so many shiurim. My wife is saying, in the car when you're driving, there's so many. Rabbi Josh Gordon, Yeshua Ben Yom Gordon Al Shalom has chitas. Yosef was saying he learns chitas with him, right?
I drive to the city back and forth every day.
And he learns chitas with him. He says, if not for that, he wouldn't learn chitas. He's learning chitas with Yeshua Gordon, and it's gavaldik. My wife puts it on, and he makes jokes, and it's quick, and and you're driving. But even if you're not driving, what I'm saying is, Start thinking. And I want to tell you a story about that. You want to hear my Shalom Terema, but what's relevant now is for the younger light and the people here to identify with Chassidus.
Can we talk about what we talk about last night? I was telling you about?
No, not yet. Not
The
yet.
Berditchever.
The Berditchever,
It
not
turns
yet.
out that this young man, he was actually a man, is also from a Chabad family.
Give me Chabad nachabos. It's a gay. A Yid's a Yid. I met a person in 1997. I met his brother-in-law in California, in Irvine. We had in Chabad, we had a telethon. Rabbi Kurin, who was the head of Chabad in California, made a yearly telethon. I was working, when I moved from Marin County to Los Angeles in 92 to 96, I was working for Rabbi Kurin. Part of my job was raising funds through his telethon list.
My father was one of the dancing rabbis.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remind myself, that's right.
Well,
Yeah, I remember now.
So you were in California until 96?
I was in California from 84 to 96, 84 to 92 in Marin County, 92 to 96 in Los Angeles. So, I met this, so I saw this person gave, I think, a $500 donation. Someone who did a $500 donation is worth a phone call, right? At least a phone call, but much more than a phone call. I said, I'd like to come see you. And I wasn't going to solicit him, just, who are you? He said, sure. Rabbi wants to come see me. I drove an hour. Irvine, it's out in Orange County. I drove an hour. I come. Shalom Aleichem. He doesn't know what Shalom Aleichem is. He says, hi, Rabbi, how are you? I said, fine. I start talking to him. He knows nothing. He doesn't know what tefillin is. He doesn't. I said, this is called tefillin, these black boxes, Would you like to do a mitzvah? What's a mitzvah? I explained what a mitzvah is. And he was what the Zohar HaKadosh says, Akar kaftad le'monach tefillin. I took someone who was in a geder, in a category of a head that never put on tefillin.
He didn't know.
Yeah, but the Zohar, Akar kaftad le'monach tefillin. And I took him out of that geder by putting on tefillin with him the first time in his life. Fine person, and I thanked him for the donation, and I said we should keep in touch, and we did stay until today, we stay in touch, so many years later. His brother-in-law lived in Manhattan. When I moved in 96 back to New York, Yeshiva brought me back to New York, Babaji Yeshiva, so I contacted his brother. And I asked him a question on the phone, and he never forget the question. A question. No, I'm sorry. I said to him, it's Tisha B'Av coming up. I'm going to the Rebbe's Oyel. Would you like to come along with me? He says, sure. We're driving he took the F train from Midtown Manhattan, where he worked, to 18th Avenue in Borough Park. The F train stops there. I live a block and a half away. Met him, and we're driving to the Oyel. And I say, today's Tisha B'Av. He says, I know. I said, okay, interesting. It's Tisha B'Av. And we're talking. And he says, in fact, I didn't put on film this morning. I said, how do you know you didn't put on film? How do you know not to put on film this morning? He says, I read in the back of the Art Scroll Siddur, they have halacha, they have laws there. And I read the halachas, the laws. We get to the Oyel. He's standing next to the Frierdiker Rebbe's matzeva. I'm standing back, the front. And I observed the way he's davening, shuckling. I was blown away. And reading. He knows how to read. He reads slow. He's reading with heart. Wow, very interesting. So I saw I had someone said, this is nuts. So he tells me on the way back that he grew up in Melbourne. He went to a day school there that was prominent. And he went to Beth Rivka as a young boy in kindergarten. Anyway, but he wasn't religious. And he opens the door, we finish, I say goodbye to him, and then I ask him the following question. As he's about to walk out and go to the train, would you like to learn with me once a week some Torah? What was his answer? What do you think his answer would be? Rabbi, I'll let you know. And you all know that means, Rabbi, I'll let you know. Go fly a kite. Geh pfeifen, as we say in Yiddish. So, nothing, I go on. He goes, 2 weeks go by, and the phone rings. Rabbi Dalfin, you asked me a question I'd like to learn with you once a week. We learned for 10 years, once a week. I took the train 1 hour from Borough Park to Manhattan. I got off, I walked to 45th Street on 5th Avenue, went up to his office, learned for an hour, Tanya, slow, and went back for an hour. 3 hours every week. My wife remembers it like yesterday. 10 years it took us to finish 53 chapters of Tanya. Because we learned slow. He dialogued. He belonged to a Reform temple. Now listen to what happens. In the 5th year, Yosef, he calls me on a Tuesday or so, and he says, Rabbi, I want to thank you for learning with me Tanya. So I say, so-and-so, why are you thanking me today? Tomorrow, I'm scheduled to learn with you like we're doing for 5 years. Can't you thank, you want to thank me in person tomorrow. He says, let me tell you why I'm thanking you and calling you today, even though I know you're coming in tomorrow. I just came out of a business meeting. He was in the life insurance business. So I just came out of a meeting. And there was an ethical question. Should I do this or should I do that? It wasn't so much of a halachic question. It was an ethical question. Is it proper or not? And I didn't know what to do. And he says, Rabbi, I stopped for a moment. I sat back. I closed my eyes and I thought, what would the Beinoni say? And that's how I made my decision. How did I have the sensitivity to even think of what the Beinoni would say? Is because we learned Tanya together, and you taught me the Alter Rebbe's idea of a Beinoni. Learn Tanya. You will learn Tanya. I promise you, you'll stop talking about Rishoyim. And that's just like a small change.
Will you learn Tanya with me?
Of course, I'll learn Tanya with you. On the phone, we'll make it.
I'll let you know.
The whole. You see, I didn't say I'll let you know, man. You learn Tanya, you'll be the happiest person in your life. And the Chavre here have learned Tanya. I want to say another interesting thing. Years ago, there came out a book called Mavericks. It was about Chabad girls in Crown Heights.
By the way, to interrupt you, Garari from Tom Zuber said he'd like to get a group together to make a Tanya share.
Oh, and he knows Tanya. You can learn with him. He's a good guy. And he's a person. Anyway, no, but he really knows. I know his family. Anyway, definitely. Very good. But make it happen. Make it happen. Anyway, so in this book, Mavericks, Stephanie Wellen Levine is her name. She's the author. She went around for a year visiting Lubavitcher homes, and particularly focusing on Lubavitcher teenagers and young adults. And she met all kinds, including some that had made a U-turn for a while. And she interviewed them, and she wrote about her experiences. It's a very interesting book. But you have to be mature to read it. You have to be mature. You can't read it like, a dope. You have to read it like, with smarts. You have to understand the broader picture. And when you read it that way, it's valuable. At least that's my opinion. Anyway, so she says something that I still remember like now. And this I want to share with you. She says, of all the girls that I interviewed, and some were really involved in things that are not great, to put it mildly. And some had these issues, and some had this issue. Two things that they all said that is positive. Guess what they are? One, that they love the Rebbe. And two, they learn and love the Tanya. You hear that? You're not religious. You're upset. You're angry. You're not involved. You've left your family, your community, and you could tell an interview is not religious, so there's no, gimmicks over here. I love the Lubavitcher Rebbe as I am, and I love Tanya. What the Alter Rebbe did with the Tanya is a lifesaver for Yidentum. And I told the younger light today at the Farbrengen, Rabbi Ruderman of Yeshiva Ner Yisrael, which wasn't known as a Chassidish yeshiva, to put it mildly, right, Binyamin? Rabbi Ruderman was a Talmud of Slobodka. Rabbi Ruderman, I interviewed a few people, would carry a little Tanya in his pocket every day of his life when he was working.
Who told you that?
I'm not going to tell you who told me that. It's private. But if I tell you that I interviewed 2 people that told me that, you should believe me. If you read my books, I think you would believe me. Because I document everything as much as I can.
You have it in your book?
It's coming out. It's coming out. I wrote about it, yeah. Yes, Ner Yisrael will really be interested in my book. They might not. They might want to stone me, but no.
I would be.
Maybe it's Hashem. You'll
Interested in stoning them?
No. I don't write that. No. But
Nothing close.
anyway, let me finish this thing. So they asked Rabbi Ruderman. And by the way, Rabbi Ruderman grew up as a Lubavitcher boy. He comes from a Lubavitcher family. There's not like, he learned Chassidus, 11, 12 Chassidus. He was a boy. And he went to the Rashab. In 1911 for the Yom Tovim, he was in Lubavitch. Tishrei, 1911, Rabbi Ruderman with his father brought him to the Rebbe Rashab. A whole month, he said, he spent there. And he heard the Maimer, and he even repeated. I heard we have relatives who married into the family. He would repeat the Maimer that the Rashab said. He remembered the Divrei HaMaschil. Rabbi Ruderman, who was a genius. Baki and Shas, and many Sfarim. So, why are you carrying around a Tanya, Rabbi Ruderman? You went to Slobodka, you became a Litvak, like what?
The Tanya was written for Litvak.
I'm just saying the way, so he said, this is the excuse he gave, and then privately he said, the Tanya, has large letters. If you look, it has large letters. So as he was getting old, it's easy, it's a small little sefer, it's a small little book, mit große Oisias.
Litvish answer.
Yeah. Then he told these people, he says, the Tanya, what's that? The Tanya, the Balatanya, it's not tzaddik. To have a Tanya with me is a school. It's life. It's kedusha. I'm learning the Tanya. So that you're willing to learn Tanya at your age, kol hakavod. I'm serious. And I'm not saying this to make you start nagresa. I'm saying, but everyone. It's Kislev. It's about the Sefer HaTanya. My Mashpir Reb Yoel, I asked him many times, what should I learn with people? Because I've been a shlichus almost 40 years, 37 years. What should I teach people? He said to me, Tanya. I said, Reb Yoel, Tanya, some program is very hard to teach. He says, that means you don't know them.
Shei's Tal has like a whole breakdown.
I've seen. I know. I made a poster out of it.
Yeah.
So Chevra.
Just lets you understand what you're actually trying
Right,
to learn.
Chevra. The guys that went to Lubavitch and learned in yeshiva, it's time to rekindle the Varmkeit, and you rekindle it. Your kids are going to have it, and your family, and that's it. I'm Dalfin. So Rabbi Yosef, please make sure to connect Garari to these guys, Chevra.
If everyone's not here, it's on the WhatsApp. There's a WhatsApp.
What's up? You need to call people individually, give them a time, give them a place, give them a hug, and say, come. And there'll be a l'chaim. Make it geschmack. So you start from a geschmackheit, and frankly, and if the chevra don't like it, then you get another teacher. It's not here. You got to have a good teacher who knows how to teach, and knows how to present it, and then it's geschmack. Anyway, Chevra, I think it's time to go. You want to hear more stories of the Alter Rebbe, right?
No.
What? Let's sing Achsidish Nigin. No, Nigin. I heard Reb Shlomo tonight sing the word Darkecha. Reb Shlomo Karlbach. I wrote a book called The Real Shlomo. Oy Darkecha Elokeinu sehila sechage. Hey, darkecha Elokeinu leharecha becha. Hey, hey, lo rayim velatoivim vehisehila. Ready? The ways of the Eibush is laharech hapecha. Even the Eibush doesn't look at it, Rosh, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to give you a chance. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Not vergessen, wegen der Rishoyim. Here we just think about ourselves, not about the Rishoyim. And the Eibush will help. The Eibush will help. Where's Mashiach? We don't have Mashiach yet. No. First of all, the Rebbe said, open your eyes and see Mashiach. No, here my eyes are open. I see Mashiach. Where is Mashiach? Open your eyes means really open your eyes. Open your neshama. You help another Yid, you see Mashiach. What's Mashiach? What is Mashiach? What do you think we're going to eat? Bananas? If not bananas, strawberries. What's Mashiach? Mashiach is Gilui Elikus, godliness. When you help a Yid, that's godliness. I'm telling you, when you help a Yid with a halva, or you help a Yid change a tire, you help a Yid, you visit someone who's in a nursing home, that is Gilui Elikus. That's godliness. That's it. That's it. We don't have to, in Yiddish we say, I bekennen the ganze Welt. Right? What does that mean? Turn over the whole world. Yeah, versteht sich, Lubavitcher. He has to turn over the whole world. He has to come in here and put up a big 770 in Lakewood.
There is one.
There's a 770 building in Lakewood?
No, 770. This is a Chabad.
A 770.
Where's the 770 besides 770?
Only in about 15, and not only in about 15 other places.
Next to Yeshiva? You think we can...
Yeah. Right? Chevra. Lakewood, you put up a 770, it's like, it's not proper. Of course, what is Stechen in Neugen? You know that that's not what they want to see. I heard from, it's my book on Lakewood and Lubavitch, I heard from one of the close students of Reb Schneur Cutler, very close student. When the Rebbe started in the 75, 76, 77 with the Mivtzoyim, he told me, I know he is, he said, he went over to Reb Schneur and he says, you know that I'm a Lubavitcher. He says, I want to do Mivtzoyim in Lakewood. I want to reach out. What do you want to do? I want to take a bus and make a bus into a mitzvah mobile. And I want to go around to the schools and the places here. Reb Schneur said, please, but do it outside of Seder. Park the bus in the Lakewood driveway. That's what he told me. Because I don't want you to appear as a missionary and a clandestine. Everyone knows who you are. You're allowed to do this, and we need this done. They're not doing it. You're volunteering to do it. Do it. And he did it.
Who was this?
Why do you have to know everything? Who is it? It was me. It was you. I mean,
It wasn't you. You never tell her his name.
I don't tell you names.
Tell yourself a Talmud of Schneur.
Why not? You know that I know Shas?
I'm sure you do.
Anyway, listen. People, a lot of people don't want to be known, and you have to respect it. In my books, I always ask if you're open to, it's better for the writing and the authenticity of the writing to have the name, but if you don't want, when I wrote about Binyamin, Binyamin's, Zayda, the great Rosh Hashiva, El Tefetet Reb Shmuel, and I thank you, Binyamin, publicly, Nachamol, for giving that wonderful material. It was the first time ever, as far as I know, it's come out in such a way in the English-speaking crowd, and I spoke to Lubavitch's, his grandfather. They had no idea, the Hechts. I said, do you know who gave you smicha? Not to them, they're already members, they're grandkids. Kids? JJ, who gave your father smicha? I don't know. I said, Reb Shmuel Kislevsky. Who's that? I said, read my book, you'll find out. He was a big Talmud Chacham, a Litvish Yid, who was a Shiva there, and he had a good feeling with Lubavitch, and he probably knew Lubavitch in Russia, and I wrote it all up. And Binyamin here, Baruch Hashem, I met him in Eretz Yisrael, and he was kind enough to give me some information. Not everything, I understand, So there are things that are private, and you just can't say names, and you have to respect that. But what we can say, when I could say, believe me, I say it.
Could we Google the Lake of Mitzvah tank of the 70s?
Can you go there?
Could we Google the Lake of Mitzvah tank of the 70s?
I doubt it. Anyway, anyone else want to say something, because we have to head back to Borough Park? Any questions, comments?
I noticed you called Rebbe's Hasidim Lubavitchers.
Yeah.
Lubavitch came later, right?
Okay, no, Chabadniks. No.
They were called, were they called Chabadniks then already? What were they called?
That's a big question. You have to read another book, Rav. I'm not sure if they were called Chabadniks.
So what were they, just followers of
They were actually called, in the interrogation papers, they were called Karliners. Hasidim were known as two names, Karliners and Freiliche. And you look it up. In the interrogation of the Alter Rebbe, this you can find online. Because they came before, the Rabbi and Kaliner, and because of their probably
association.
Not association, their emotionalism, and they're called Karlinas, yeah. All Chassidim. So no, there wasn't just the Karlinas, the Stolinim. It was all Chassidim. And that's a good question you asked me about. When the Shita of the Alter Rebbe, Yosef, when can we identify? It's a big question. The Frierdiker Rebbe has one answer, and whatever. It seems like it was really early on. The Maggid passed away in 1772, Tov Kufayin Gimel, the Maggid of Mesrich. The Alter Rebbe, who took over? No, that's wrong. No, Baal was before. Mendele Haradoker, Mendele Vitebsker. When he left in 1788 to Eretz Yisrael, 1778, when he left Eretz Yisrael, right? So then he appointed the Balatanya over that part of the country. What?
Only have to be the Messiah.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Everyone has cell phones.
This is very beautiful.
Yeah, this is a practical Tanya. Rabbi Miller, a very good sefer to learn Tanya with.
Yeah.
Thank you. So when he took over, but that doesn't mean he took over as a leader for all Hasidim in that region, not just Chabad Hasidim. Right? So that's the question. When he took over, which is pretty early on, did he already have his Shitas Chabad?
Yeah, it's Chabad. It wasn't labeled.
How do you know? You have proof to what you're saying?
Because the way Chabad lives is based on Alter Rebbe.
Yes, but for example,
Petersburg, that was Chabad.
But this is before Petersburg I'm talking about.
Okay, but because it was all cloudy. His Mamor Fatumu. It was in the way that we see them. But after Petersburg, the Kim Thor is supposed to give in.
Yeah, but he's asking me, when can we identify exactly? In other words, the Alter Rebbe went.
That's just too harsh.
One second. He went to the Maggid, right? The Alter Rebbe went to the Maggid.
Yeah.
At that time, would you say he had Shitas Chabad? He was a Makabel.
No, he was Makabel.
Exactly, he was Makabel.
And the family.
He was Makabel. Maggid passes away. Reb Mendele, we don't see. Reb Mendele is in charge. So when did he develop the Tanya, the Shitas Tanya, the Chochmah Bina Das? I'm just saying that it's.
One thing we know, it wasn't born the first day he got out of prison.
Yeah, richtig, right. Right, yeah. No, he's just asking, because this is a historian's asked this question. No.
It was all in the making.
But it's Negeya, if you really, it's Negeya because there's a whole pilpul, there's a whole debate. It's not Sastam, this is debated by historians. The debate is, was he, as the leader of the entire area, supposed to be teaching Chabad derech, or let's say Karlin derech? And what do we know? That when Shlomo Karliner had to run away from, I think, Beshenkovitz, from one of the cities, because of the Litvaks, right? He was Gefährlich Reidif. So he wanted to move to the Alter Rebbe's area. So he came to the Alter Rebbe because he knew that the Alter Rebbe was appointed by what's it called? By the Mendele. So he says, may I move here? So the Alter Rebbe says, you can move here, but on 3 conditions. I'll tell you one of the conditions is, you cannot market the sale of Tzaddik Ben Mnoshe Yichya here. Here we follow Chabad in Shita. So if you want to steal a piece of chont and say l'chaim to the Rebbe and say I'm a chassid, it ain't working here. That's not what I want. That's not what the people need. That's what he felt. And this is a story that is transmitted Sayin Karlin, and they're upset about it, of course. I can understand why. And Sayin Chabad. That girl used to Farbrengen hours about this. Hours. What really did the Alter Rebbe mean? Did he mean to Chas v'Sholom exclude Rav Shlomo? He felt that since this is a Litvische area, and Litvaks are used to a good Reb Chaim, a good Tzos, Seichel, what's going to work here is Seichel, Chabad, and just emotions, and Varmkeit, and shuckling, and ain't going to work here. That was the shit. It wasn't that he was against Reb Shlomo, Chas v'Sholom. But he said, Reb Shlomo, you know, I'll tell you, Marshall, Tzemach Tzedek had you mentioned the Koppester, right? Since you mentioned, I'll tell you. I wouldn't tell you that. Tzemach Tzedek had one of his sons married the Chekasser. Chekasser was from Chernobyl. And his father-in-law says, what does his father say? His father says, go become a Chassidish Rebbe in Avruch. Somewhere near Chernobyl. So Tzemach Tzedek says to him, my son, what are you running over there for? You won't be, you know Chabad Hasidus. They don't relate to Chabad Hasidus. Yeah. So he says, you're going to teach Chabad Hasidus in a place where they're used to just shuckling daven? It's like, what are you doing? You're going to be a failure. And he didn't listen to his father. This Heilige Tzaddik. And he opted with his father-in-law because the Parnasa was there. And Tzemach writes a letter, you should read this letter. Tzemach writes a letter that says, if it's a matter of Parnasa, I'll give you money. But he says, it doesn't make any sense. Why am I saying this? You speak about couples before. The different shittas. So for Reb Shlomo Karliner to come into Lita, to come in and try to sell Chagas Chassidus, shuckling and then screaming and dancing and crying and all that, it doesn't work with Litvax. And that's the area that he was in, the Litvish area. But Mela, I want you to come here, but you need to teach the Chabad Oifen. So that's the question now. I mean, that's the question. So you see how there's a nafkamina. You ask, what's the big deal later? There's a nafkamina. There's a halacha. There's a nafkamina.
Yeah, the reason why the man picked the Balatani to be in his framework of work was because he was lit.
Okay, no. But Reb Shlomo will reinkommen. And he said, Reb Shlomo, I'm sorry, you can come, and I need you, and you'll be an asset. But the mahalach has to be, okay. Chevre, mit darf sagen, gute Nacht, right? Darf benchen. Reb Yosef, you say something, because it's your last chance.
My last chance is, I'm still fascinated with what I came across on Friday night. I was talking to you about.
But they don't know about it, then now's not the time for it. But anyway, go ahead. What?
No, my point is, the Berditchever said that he could burn down Petersburg with his pipe.
Yeah, no, it's a famous mice, yeah.
Just the realization, the thought process, that the ultimate, I guess it was until this year that I never had this realization. Referencing, when they came, there was a delegation. There was a delegation that was sent off to Berditchev to let the Berditchever know what was going on with the Baltas. So the Berditchever, somebody comes to Berditchever, and the Berditchever said he's sitting there smoking his pipe.
Long pipe.
And basically he's almost laughing on the situation, and he says, basically, I don't know why the Alter Rebbe chose to go this route. If it was up to me, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but if it was up to me, this is part of the story. I only saw the details of the story. I only saw as of last night. That he says, if it was up to me, I could have burned down Petersburg with my pipe. In short, through Mochsim, I could have taken care of the entire Petersburg situation. There would have been no imprisonment altogether. The Alter Rebbe, what he was saying is he chose to put himself in prison, and he said that the Alter Rebbe and the Berditchever had an argument, and you see this the famous mice by the Zlodge of Chasna. Alter Rebbe and the Berditchever had an argument, which was, how do you deal with the world? Do you deal with it with Moifsim? Do you deal with the world with Dira B'Tachtoin? Do you make God? And the whole thing was, it was mind blowing to me that the Baal Tanya had this realization that what was happening over here, that the Alter Rebbe basically chose to go into prison, and his reasoning for it was that God wants that his Atzmus in Tachton. This was the lesson that the Alter Rebbe used. That Hashem wants Atzmus in Tachtonim. God wants His innermost essence in the lowest parts of the world. So although you can totally wipe out Petersburg in whatever miraculous way, you can make the whole court case and the whole everything disappear in a blink. The Alter Rebbe wanted to indulge it and conquer it in a practical manner, that it would actually come to pass. And that the whole thing would be in a natural way, not a supernatural way.
Let's sing the Alter Rebbe's Niggun, and then we'll bench and we're finished. Yama ma 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 yama ma ma ya yama ma 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 yama ya ay la ra ya mama ya mama ha ya na la ra ya ya mama ya mama ya Call him today for the shir. Mama ya mama ya mama ya da 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 ya ha ya mama da 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 ya mama take my mama you don't help kabra mama thank you yum take care today ya la da da ya A new cruise up L'chaim. What are you guys waiting for? Say L'chaim. You can eat something. Where are you coming from? From yeshiva? See, a lot of bacher in here. From yeshiva, you can talk. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt. Yeah. Which yeshiva?
We're companions.
All right, but the companions. Where's that? What's the name?
By Oak.
Huh?
By Oak. Oak.
That companion. Remind me. Who's the son-in-law?
Shia's son.
Who?
Shia's son.
No, but who's his father-in-law? No? I heard the name. I don't remember. Uh-huh. So, what are you learning now? What Masechta are you learning? Bava Kama. No, say L'chaim. Give them L'chaim. A little L'chaim L'vracha. How did you know there's a Farbrengen here? I'm curious.
We heard about it.
You heard about it. You smelled it, yeah? Yeah. You know what they say? Chassidim have a good chush hareach. Good smell, Chaim L'vracha. So you all must be Chassidim. Where you come from, Chassidim? The whole Yiddishkeit, L'chaim L'vracha. Good Yom Tov. We hasted. What's your name? What's your name? Chaim L'vracha. Well, I don't have your name, so we hasted?
Cats.
Cats. What's cats? Mordechai Katz, Aaron Katz, Mechel Katz, and you? Abdul, nice to meet you. No, Chevra, what's your name? Sit down. You don't stand by Farbrengen. This is not a baseball game. You got to sit down. If you want to stay, sit down, be a mensch, relax, like it's on Tatzlach and everything. You live here?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. You know the Chevra? You know the...
No, come around.
No?
Everybody knows
Chevra, we've been talking for 2.5 hours. We've been Farbrengen. And the thing is that, how old are you, Bachram? 18, 17, 19?
15, 16, 16.
Oh, you're young. You shouldn't be taking l'chaim. I don't want to be arrested.
See, then there's no age.
But by the police there is.
Not driving.
What? Okay.
Not going Corona, not going
Are you a father of one of the?
I'm a driver, so I'm not going to shoot for it.
What's this? I mean, there's a pa'ula bringing Bachram to Farbrengen.
Yeah.
So every time there's a
No, I'm serious.
I make sure there's a red by at least by him or here.
Pashi, what do I do? I'm about to leave and come.
I read that.
You
have honored guests to come to your parade. You're supposed to start from the beginning.
781.
Do you have any mices about the Rabbi?
Well, I have a more pointed question.
Yeah.
I'm a Chaim Berlin guy from way back. So tell me about,
You read my book about the Rebbe and the Chaim Berlin.
Because first of all, is the legend true? The legend is that Rav Hutner, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and Rabbi Yosha Ber sat together in the same class. Is that possible or no?
Rabbi Hutner did not learn in the university, as far as I know, at all. That is a mistake that he wanted to go. And guess who convinced him not to go? 2 people. The Sridei Eish and the Rebbe. And the Rebbe told Rabbi Hutner, and I know the Chaim Berliners don't like to hear it, but my research points, there's a lot of mistakes people make. How long do you think Rabbi Hutner was in Berlin?
Berlin, he came here in 36.
No, he came to America in 33. Sorry, he came in 33. He became Rosh Hashanah. He went to Chaim Berlin in 36, but he came in 33. But anyway, go ahead.
Before that.
Yeah. But how long was he in Berlin?
Maybe 10 years, maybe less.
4 months. You know why I was only there 4 months? Because the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a good friend of his, said to him, "You don't belong here. You should go back to the Bnei Torah in Varsha." He went back to Varsha, and I have the letters from those years, and I printed 2 of those letters in the book, showing that he went back to Varsha, and he writes to his friends about what he's going to do next. So he did not learn in the university. He did want to, and he wanted to hang out and be with. There were geniuses. Now, besides the Rebbe and Rabbi Soloveitchik, the whole culture was Haskalah, right? And Rabbi Hutner was a very, very interested person in Haskalah in general. That's why he learned Maral. He wasn't, besides his knowledge of Gemara, but he was a thinker. And Berlin at that time was the place, right? But the Rebbe told him, "You're not married. I'm married. You shouldn't stay." Soloveitchik already signed up as a PhD student, and he was already b'teichat dvarim. By the way, the Rebbe, make people make a mistake. The Rebbe didn't go to university to get a degree. He wanted to be an engineer, and he got a degree in engineering. And in order to do that, you needed to take certain courses. So he took certain courses at the university. He never got a degree from the University of Berlin, like Soloveitchik got a PhD. And Rabbi Hutner, he told him, and he listened. It's not a place for you, It's not a great cap, but the environment is in those days, it was gefährlich. So that's what my research points to. If someone has other research, kol hakavod, that's my research points to him not being there. In fact, I spoke to his daughter.
Are you selling the books here?
Yeah.
I would buy this book.
Yeah, you can buy it. But you have to read it with an open head. If you're gonna read it like a Chaim Berliner, you're gonna get upset. You got it. I write in my introduction. You got to sit back and read it objectively. Then you decide whatever it is. I'm not going to tell you. You're going to decide. But read it objectively. If you come in reading a book, I write this in all of my introductions. If you come in reading a book, wo leifst, where are you running to? Home? Sit down, sit down, as warme Jid. Where are you running? Where? You're running to noch 120 Schluftmen. Anyway, when you read a book, you have to read it objectively. Any book. If you really want to get what the author is writing, again, you could disagree. I want you to disagree. But first, read, at least hear what's being said. And then if you read it that way, I think you'll be happy. Again. And another thing is, you have to train yourself, and we all have to train ourselves. Like almost anything that we hear, especially the young Bacharim in yeshiva, because I was once your age in yeshiva, most of it is babamaisis, baloney, nonsense. It's all baloney, Lubavitch, Litvaks, it's all narishkeit. Unless you could document something, or come close to it, or have a siyata, a raya, then you could start talking. But all these narishkeiten, it's just... Yeah.
Was Rav Kook at that same Kufa?
Rav Kook was not in Berlin. Rav Kook was older. Rav Kook passed away in 35.
Rav Hutner was friends with Rav Kook.
Yes, he was. Not only was he friends, he was related to Rav Kook. And when he went to Eretz Yisrael, you'll see I have a letter I printed. The letterhead says Rechavia. He was very close to Rav Kook.
So it was the same time that he was also with the Lubavitcher Rebbe?
No, Rav Kook wasn't in Eretz Yisrael.
Oh, okay.
Rav Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't go to Eretz Yisrael. Rav Kook did. Rav Hutner went to Eretz Yisrael. The Zach is it's Yutas Kislev, so we need to talk about Yutas Kislev. By the way, it's Rabbi. Wait a minute, it's Yom Tov. By the way, it's Rabbi Hutner's yahrzeit tonight. 40 years. 40 years. Oh, that's on L'chaim. L'chaim, Rabbi Hutner, L'chaim to your neshama. I promise you that what I wrote and did, I meant it well. I meant it to bring a Kiddush Hashem to your neshama. Some of the Chaya Berliners tore down my signs. No. L'chaim. The Rebbe and Rabbi Hutner had a Chavrussenschaft. Did you know that? From 1947 to 1950, 3 years, once a week, Rabbi Hutner came to the Rebbe's apartment in Crown Heights. I heard this from Rabbi Groner, and they learned for 2-3 hours Maharal and Chassidus Chabad, Tzemach Tzedek, and Mittler Rebbe, and they were very good friends. Wow. Now I'll tell you, since this is your site, I'm glad you mentioned it. The story that people were floating, I don't know if you know this, that in the last 2-3 weeks of his life, he wasn't well. And he once said, the Lubavitcher Rebbe is the Tzaddik Ador. That's what I heard over the years. Okay, here we go. Okay. Yes, no, when? So I did my investigation. I called someone at 5 in the morning. I was in Eretz Yisrael for a year, pretty much. I'm not going to say who. A big Rosh Hashiva, a Litvish Rosh Hashiva, a massive Talmud Chacham, a teacher, a Rosh Hashiva in one of Rabbi in an institution associate, Rabbi Hutner. I called him, and you get a call from someone 5:30 in the morning, because I heard he was up early. You pick up the phone, who's calling me this time of the hour? And I say, who I am. So I say, listen, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you mind? He says, what would you like to ask me? I said, I heard you were in the room when Rabbi Hutner said about Lubavitcher Rebbe that he's a tzaddik ador. Is it true or false? So he says to me, that's not exactly what he said. He's an American who made Aliyah, So I said, so what did he say? He said something to the effect that he was a real good friend of mine. That's all I needed. What do I mean? Now, what do I mean? I don't conclude that he said the Rebbe was a tzaddik ador. But in a way, he said even more than that. He's a real good friend of mine. And that came from someone who was very close to him. He was standing right there. So you see how here is something that people, they talk. So there is, you understand? He didn't say exactly that lashon, that term, but the idea that there was a kiruv, there was a positive relationship, he said in some way. You understand? So this is how, at least, I analyze something from different angles to see if there's truth. I'll give you another example. This is coming out in my book, Mitzvah Shem Aponovich and Chabad. Recently, about a month ago, they publicized on a website, on an Israeli website, a Frum website, that Rav Shach told someone in Lakewood, in Lakewood, to ask the Lubavitcher Rebbe pshat in a Kislev Arizal. So the website publicized it. Rav Shach tells someone to go to Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1982. Wow. The Olam, who, the WhatsApps, they went, true, not true. The Kitzer, Chaver called me, and I speak once a week on history, on Chabad history and the Litvische history. That's usually what I speak about. So, in Motzei Shabbos and Sunday, and it's archived. So, I spoke about this. So I got calls, said, you should have not said it because it's not true. It's above Mises. So I said, first of all, I was told, and I saw the website, and I saw the letters, and but I said, what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to find out who the person is. I found him. He's in Lakewood. I'm not going to say who it is. He's a rabbi in Lakewood. I called him up.
Maybe good loyal.
This guy. The rabbi, the Rav, I say, you're so-and-so. He says, why are you asking? I say, because do you know that there was a letter that the Rebbe sent you, they publicized, and they say there's a story with Rav Shach with it? He says, nicht emes.
Which means?
Not true. And he was about to hang up because people have been nudging him. But, part of my business is to engage people and know how to schlep out information. So I spent 15, 20 minutes with him on the phone. And I tell you, it's my opinion, that the Maisa is emes. What's the proof? Listen to this. He admitted that his brother is a Talmud Muvik of Rav Shach. He admitted that he spoke many times to Rav Shach. He admitted that he had a question. He was editing a sefer of his grandfather, who was a Bavavar, Rav Rattenberg, maybe you know Rav Rattenberg, who lived in Schweiz or somewhere before the war. And he was editing a Tufshin Mem Beis Mem Gimel to put out the sefer. He admitted that. And then he started to attack the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, with college. How can a Rebbe go to college? So I saw right away. Poseleidus. He had gelernt a stickel Gemara, you see? Poseleidus! He's biased. It gets even better. Hey, it gets even better. Bashi, don't relax. Don't worry. We'll talk to the Bacher in there. If the women are uncomfortable, we're going to the kitchen. Anyway, I'm sure Suri likes it. Anyway, you see? I know my customers. Anyway, so he then he says to me, and I'm listening. Then he says to me, he says, I say to him, why are you so upset and angry that this letter got out? The Rebbe wrote your letter, it's your name. Yes. He says, you know why? Because you Lubavitchers, right, you Lubavitchers want to make the Rebbe look good and Rabbi Shach not look good. I feel it's an emes, even if it's true. And, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Postulatus. In other words, that's why you're saying no? Because you don't want me or someone else to speak about it and you know.
So you hung up?
No, he didn't hang up.
Oh, why?
He didn't hang up at all.
No, why? You hung up?
No.
But it's done. It's finished.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Yasher koyach. Thank you for your time. L'chaim u'shalom.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, can you say I'm wrong? Absolutely. I think I have halachic reason to believe it's right, and civil reason is postulatus. Yeah. And he's telling me no, because he wants Lubavitch not to do this. And a friend of mine who's a Lubavitch at Rosh Hashiva, is a Talmud Chacham, he said to me, it comes down to Rav Shach said it, but how do you know he said it L'Shvach? He went to Rav Shach, he said, Rav Shach, I don't know Pshat here in the Kislev Arizal. Can you explain it to me? Here's this Rosh Hashiva, he says to him, yeah, nem same, go there. It's not my cup of tea, go there. So you can sing the...
Ja, aber wollte nicht gesagt, dass
you can sing in the kvetch. Gates of the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
It's nicht missfallen.
You go to the Lubavitcher, or you can say, go to him. You know, for these Narishkeit, go to him. I know Taisvus and Marsha and Ktsas, and that's it, and Reb Chaim.
About that, right? It says, the guy says, go to this guy's house, he always has a light on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the Gemara, right. Yeah. No, I'm just sharing a little bit, you're asking about stories. You know, how you should go, how do you approach a piece of information? I think that's valuable for the Bacharim, who are Bacharim, you know, in Yeshiva. Just in general, you know, I can tell you that Rav Shach had some issues with some of the Rebbe's ideologies, but it wasn't personal. Was it fiery? Absolutely. No question about it. But it was, he had a shita, different shita. Rabbi Lakewood, before you guys were born, before I was born in the 1940s, he had an issue with the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, who came out with a whole campaign, La'al Tegul, La'al Teshuva. I wrote about that in my book, Lakewood and Lubavitch, by Riches. So I had someone contact Rabbi Aaron Cutler, the administrator from Lakewood. He said, let him write. You know, I got to raise money for my yeshiva. Not worry about what someone writes in a book. You know, you have to study things. You have to study things. And you're young, you Talmidim. I want to talk to the Talmidim. I'm not saying you should kochzich in these things. Better to kochzich Barash and Tosfos at this age, for sure. But I'm saying, as you grow older and you hear things, you see things, study them, think about them. Don't let someone else. You know, and I was like you guys probably. You know, I bought everything also when I was your age. You know, all the Lubavitcher stories, like the literature by the literature stories. But now that I've been writing for so long, I look at the world in a broader way. I look at the whole Chassidus and Litvaks in a broader way. And then at the end of the day, everyone should choose their path. Chassidus and Chassidim are warm. And you never, you know, and if you want that in your life, you will get it. And if you want Lubavitch, because Lubavitch has kind of the Chochmah Bina Das, the understanding, right? That's why, by the way, the Balatanya, who was celebrating tonight, his Yom HaGeula, the Alter Rebbe, he parked himself in Lita, the bastion, the seat of the Vilna Goin, of the Litvische, of the Misnagdim. And what is he doing there? He grew up there. Oh, but it's a place of Seichel. We discussed it earlier in the Farbrengen. That's why the Alter Rebbe was Matzliach there. And you should know, I heard from people whose parents were from Lita, they were Lubavitch. He says, pre-war in Lita, everyone was together. There was no such a thing.
Pre-World War I?
Yeah, no, pre-World War I also, yeah. But even World War I from 1914 to 1939, he says, they intermarried. There was a Yid, Rab Margolin. I don't know if you know him from Borough Park. He davened at the Mir Minyan on 16th Avenue. married a Lubavitcher woman, and his kid's a Lubavitch, you know. So I asked him, so like, how did he see? And he was a real mirror.
No.
The answer is everyone was intermarried with each other on the Gessel. They shopped in the same stores. They ate the same bulkers, the same potatoes. They cried together. They laughed together. Yeah. So on Purim, like in Nachlaot in Eretz Yisrael, they have two shuls, Bati Broida and Bati Rand in Nachlaot over there. So I was told by Chassidim by people from Amol that lived there 150, 60 years ago. On Purim, the Chassidim from the shul, the Tzanzer, Kloisenberg, they would run into the Bati Broida from the Litvish Mishnah shul, and they would say, that was a joke once a year they did. You know what I mean?
What does that mean?
That's not the text. The Sfar, there's two different ways. The Ashkenaz doesn't say V'yatzov Koron Koron B'shichei, and Nusach Sfar says V'yatzov Koron Koron B'shichei. So they were like, making, trouble. They were making trouble.
Text of the Sfar into the Ashkenaz.
Big deal. Bottom line is, you have to learn Torah with Yiras Shamayim. I want to tell you a story, and then I have to go. I'm finishing.
That's it.
One Meister, you have to go. Fast. 1904. A group of Litvish Bacharim get upset something that Rashab wrote, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe Sholem Ber. What did he write in Kunter Seitz Chaim, an essay that he wrote? That learning Torah, Nigla, Gemara, without Pnimius HaTorah, see this Pnimius HaTorah, you won't have Yiras Shamayim. They went to Reb Chaim Oizer, they went to Reb Chaim Brisker, they went to the Heilige Chofetz Chaim to complain, to ostracize, to put the Rebbe Rashab in a Reish Mem Ches, a ban. Chaim. Chofetz Chaim says, I know the Rebbe Rashab. I was with him at community meetings. And I sent my Rosh Hashiva, Reb Naftali Trop, to Lubavitch for some activity. And he went into the Beis Medrash and he saw the Bocharim learning Gemara with Yiras Shamayim. He says he was blown away. And with beards. Chofetz Chaim wrote a sefer. Tiferet saw them up wearing a beard. And he couldn't get his Bocharim and everything to wear beards. Yeah. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe doesn't even speak about beards, and everyone's bearing beards. So he says, I'm not going to put a Reish Mem Ches Acherem up from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. They went to Reb Chaim Oizer. Reb Chaim Oizer said, I'll vote like Reb Chaim Brisker. Reb Chaim. Stam Reb Chaim Brisker, I'm going to Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim says, Chevre, let me see this kuntris. Do me a favor, let me have it overnight. Come back tomorrow. I've never seen it. They come back tomorrow and he says, I went through the kuntris. He is right. I can show you this letter. It's printed with the details. It's 4 or 5 pages. I'm telling you, very short. Reb Chaim Oizer, Chaim Brisker, Chofetz Chaim. Chevra, you learn the Litvish Yeshiva, learn some Chassidus. You'll be happy. I'm serious. It's not a contradiction. Seid gesund, have a gute Nacht, a gut Yom Tov. Yeah. You can pay me, yeah. Without pension.
The card works, I should send you a check, I'll have cash here.
Do it on you do PayPal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, on do you have a website?
Let's bench. Yeah, Thank you for Farbrengen. I think I see you in Borough Park, no?
It could be I've been around Borough Park for a bunch of years, but I haven't been there because I've been in and out.
There's someone looks just like you who I see in the Borough Park. Used to come Friday, and it was interesting to me. I didn't know. Not you.
I haven't been.
You don't want to tell me.
No. I haven't. I'm not shy of anything I do. I haven't been there for we'll be in touch.
Hey, Basha, take a little bit home so we'll have something from Lava Malka.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
What's the?
You have a cell phone?
Yeah.
That's 30.
Somewhere on the table. Well, I'll take it.
Chaim.
All right, should we end the broadcast?
Yeah.
Press the finish button.
Yes, do it. I don't know.
Here's the finish button.